Hello my fellow book lovers and welcome to today's video. So I've decided that instead of doing a giant video of all the books that I read this year, I'm going to break them up into separate genres, categories, or whatever. And basically part one of all the books that I've read this year is going to be all of the thriller books that I have read. Now this isn't going to include any digital thrillers that I read because that in itself is also going to be a whole separate video that you guys can watch. So we are just going to be talking about all the physical thriller books that I read this year. I'm actually really excited because I don't have as many as I thought I was going to, and I don't see myself reading any more thrillers this year considering it is halfway through December and I'm only into romances right now. So let's just get straight into this video and start talking about some of the books I read this year. I'm gonna start off with my most recent thriller read, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about this one because you'll get more of a full in-depth review in my December wrap-up video. Overall, this was a nice winter read. It wasn't my favorite thriller I've ever read. I think I kind of started off on the wrong foot with Ruth Ware because this is the first book I've ever read by her and I wasn't very impressed, but I have heard that people rave about her and that some of her books are really, really great. So I'm just really hoping that this was just like an odd one out and that hopefully if I read some of her books in the future that they're gonna like blow me away. Now I'm also going in no particular order, so like I'm just like pulling these books out at random basically. Let's talk about two that I have that are in a series that I have talked about quite a bit I feel like on my channel, and that is The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. I absolutely loved both of these books. I think I ended up rating this one a 4.5 stars and then The Housemaid's Secret 4 stars. Both very, very gripping. Storytelling ability is amazing by Frida McFadden. I cannot wait to read the last book in this series that's coming out sometime next year. I absolutely loved this series. In total, I want to say it's like a 5-star thriller series because it just keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time you're reading these books. So if you haven't read these books this year, I highly recommend that you like put them on your TBR for 2024 because they are chef's kiss, so thrilling, so good, and the twists at the end, mind-blowing. Okay, they're crazy. Next up is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I have actually never read any other book by this author. Let me tell you, I was so impressed with this book. I actually love it. I think this is probably one of my favorites of the year because I constantly go back to like thinking about this book and like the storytelling ability that she had or like the way that she led this. It was just crazy. Like it was just so good. And there were so many things that I was not expecting that like towards the end of the book when like all the reveals were happening or like loose ends were being wrapped up, I was like, oh my gosh, I never even saw that or even like thought that that was gonna happen. And it was really, really great. I think I ended up rating this one a 4.25 stars. Yeah, so I ended up giving this a 4 stars on Goodreads, but I think my overall was 4.25 or 4.5. Didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but I absolutely loved all the characters and the way that they all intertwined with each other in this story. If this is a book that you didn't read this year, highly recommend putting this one on your 2024 TBR because it's absolutely amazing. Just a little bit of a synopsis of the book. A local woman goes missing, and then I think about a week or 2 weeks later, another woman and her daughter go missing who live literally just blocks away. And then the case runs cold, but 11 years later, all of a sudden her daughter Delilah returns and everybody wants to know what happened to her, what happened to her mom, and where she was for these 11 years. This story is crazy and it's just so good. So good. Next up we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know how you say his last name. This book is really highly rated. I did really enjoy it, but I personally do think that this book was very much overhyped. I don't want to say overrated, but definitely overhyped. It's definitely a slow going, slow progress building book. I ended up giving this book a 4 stars because once it picked up, I really did enjoy my time reading it. But overall, I just like wasn't all that impressed. The twist all of a sudden was just like happening and like there was points where I was kind of confused because the way that the book was being written, like the timeline, I was like, wait a second, what's going on? Because the timeline doesn't seem like it's matching up. So I kind of got really confused at that point, but I feel like that was his intention, was to kind of confuse you so that you didn't see what was happening. When it happened, I was like, oh, okay, like I should have expected this, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a jaw-dropping reveal for me. I wasn't too impressed. 4 stars because one, the writing was just really good. I think he's a really talented writer, but I wasn't like super thrilled with it. You know, it was just like just kind of happened. I gave it 4 stars. I think other people would really like it. I can see why people rated it 5 stars. I don't know. It almost just seemed so out of character. And that's all I'm gonna say. Now, this is a book I read way earlier this year, and that is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. This is the only book I've ever read by Geneva Rose. I do kind of want to read some of her other books to see if this is like a one-off. Truthfully, I didn't love it. It was okay. The twist at the end, I almost felt like was just like such a predictable, or like such a like a, I don't want to say predictable because I didn't guess it, but it was something actually that like when I was telling my husband about the book, he's like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. And I was like, that's definitely not what's gonna happen. Guess what happened? He guessed it. He literally guessed the plot twist of the book. I wasn't like overall impressed with it because it was just like, I felt like almost like a cop-out in a way, but I don't know. I just didn't love it. This is supposed to be, I think someone got the film rights or something and it's being developed into a film or a TV. I don't know exactly. I feel like TV purposes, it's gonna be fantastic. Like the story and everything, especially if people haven't read the book, I feel like more visually, it'll be more appealing. The twist will be more jaw-dropping in a TV show or a movie rather than the actual book. But yeah, overall, I wasn't too impressed. I think I ended up rating it 3 stars or something. I wasn't like really impressed with it. Like I said, the twist kind of disappointed me. It just seemed so like, also again, out of character. Like it just seemed so out of character. And then I guess like obviously with all the explanations, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know? So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. I'm just starting to realize that I did have a lot of disappointing thriller reads this year. Now that I'm looking at my pile of books, I have had a few too many disappointing thriller reads this year. All right, let's talk now about Riley Sager's The House Across the Lake. This would have been so good. It would have been so good if the plot twist didn't seem so far out, so far-fetched. Like it was just like so out of nowhere that it like ruined the entire book for me. This literally would have been a 5-star read if the plot twist wasn't what the plot twist was. If it was something completely different, I think this would have been a 5-star read. I was so addicted, so like drawn in to the story of these characters that we were following, and then the plot twist happened and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you serious right now? I did not love this book. I think I gave it a 3.5 stars, 3 stars. I don't even know if I want to keep it at that. I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. I know that this is like a hit or miss book with a lot of people, and this one was a miss, a big miss for me. I do highly recommend though that you find out for yourself if this is a book that you love, because like I said, this is like a hit or miss book. If you're like super into the plot twist, then this would 100% be a 5-star read for you. The plot twist does get a lot of people where they're just like, are you kidding me? And I was one of those people, but I'm glad that I found that out, because honestly, like I said, if this book had like been written and the plot twist had been different, I 100% would have rated this a 5-star. It was so good, especially the way that the book is set up. Like it kind of like drives you to keep going. You're like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? Because you're getting a before and after. Like that really draws you in. I remember like reading some of the before or the afters and I was like, oh my gosh, when am I gonna get to this point? And I was like really excited for it. So I do recommend that you find out for yourself if this is a book for you. So yes, I do think that you should put this on your 2024 TBR, but personally, I just didn't like it. I really wouldn't be recommending it if it wasn't for the fact that it's so like 50-50. You know what I mean? So yeah, I only have 6 books left. 3 of them are by the same author, so I think I'm gonna save those for the very end. Let me move on to Bunny by Mona Awad. This is actually more dark academia than thriller, but I know it's like more, it's also in that like thriller genre-ish. So I just want to talk about it really quick. Also, wasn't one of my favorite books. I didn't really like it. I felt like I was too stupid to understand what it is. But then I watched one of Destiny's videos, and she actually made like a really good point that like dark academia is literally just dark academia. Like it almost doesn't seem like there's meant to be like a really big plot point or like a really big like reveal or anything like that at the end, which I think that's what I was expecting is dark academia, and it's kind of kooky and you're just like, what the heck is going on throughout this entire book? But then I also feel like the ending in this book wasn't wrapped up for me, or I'm just dumb and didn't understand the ending and the wrapping up portion of the entire thing. I don't know. If you like dark academia, then maybe this is the book for you. But honestly, if you've never read Dark Academia before, I wouldn't start with this book. I think I would start with maybe a different one. This one I don't think has any like really dark, disturbing things about it that I remember. Yeah, nothing like too dark and disturbing, but still Dark Academia. Next up we have Her Dark Silence by Jason Casper. This one was actually kind of interesting. I actually read this book in a day. Like, I don't even think it took me 8 hours to read this book. It's not very long. It's less than 300 pages, I think. And the words are pretty big. So it did not take me long to finish this. It was good because I read this, I think, back in January. So this literally almost a year ago that I read this book. I don't remember too much about it. I do remember that it does follow military veterans. So there is like a mystery thriller aspect around military veterans. And I think someone is picking them off one by one. Follow Clara because she keeps having nightmares. Something like that. I don't really remember. I don't remember what I gave this book. I gave this one 3 stars, and I do remember kind of liking it, but also kind of just being like meh about it. Like, it definitely was interesting, and this book actually my cousin gave me. So like, I hadn't heard anyone talk about it. No one else I know has talked about it. I haven't seen any videos of people. So I just read it because I just wanted a short thriller book to read and I was in the mood for something different, so I read this one. Overall, it was good. I don't know if I necessarily recommend it. It's just, you know, it was just kind of there. I guess if you want like a really quick, short thriller read, this one might be a good choice for you. That's really it. I don't have any other thoughts about it. Next up, we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is a book I read more recently, I think about like 2 months ago. I read it in October. I really liked the concept of this book and kind of the way that it was delivered, but I wasn't invested in any of the characters. Even towards the end, I feel like I should have DNF'd it, but I really wanted to find out who it was and what happened, because the ending, honestly, I didn't expect the person who was revealed to be revealed. It just like, I don't know, part of me was like, no clues indicated that it would be this person, which I guess makes it a really good like plot twist and like thriller. And then like at the end, when you're getting like the details like all sorted out, like when they're explaining things, it makes sense. But overall, I didn't really love this book. This is a time loop book, so basically, Aiden Bishop is going to repeat the same day over and over again until he figures out who kills Evelyn Hardcastle, but every day he wakes up in a new person's body. So he remembers everything from the previous day, from the previous body, so basically he has to take all that information to try and figure out who kills her before his 8th day is up, before he gets through all the bodies that he's supposed to be in, because then it will restart and he won't have any memories, and he'll just keep doing this over and over and over again until he figures out who kills her. So like I said, the concept of the book actually is really interesting and cool. It just like didn't hit. It just like was really underwhelming for what it was. I just was kind of bored. I wasn't invested in any of the characters. I didn't really care for any of the characters, especially the ones that he was in the body, like he was in the body of. All right, the 3 books that I have left are all by Lisa Jewell, and I really do love Lisa Jewell. I think she's like an auto-buy author for me at this point, where if she comes out with a book, I'm buying it. I haven't read her newest book yet because I haven't had the opportunity. I absolutely love Lisa Jewell, so I'm really excited to talk about some of her books. Let's talk about Watching You first, because truthfully, this one was very meh for me out of her books. I've only read 4 books by her, but I still love her. This one personally just didn't hit for me. The only reason I got through it so quickly was because I wanted to figure out what was gonna happen. Overall, I was like really underwhelmed with this one. It just like didn't pull me in. It wasn't like really gripping. I don't know if I didn't care about the characters as much or like what was going on, but overall, I didn't love this one. This one I ended up rating a 3 stars. The ending though, I think in the plot twist was really good. So like the very ending, I think the epilogue was like really good and was a really big plot twist that I really liked. That ending I really liked, but the overall ending of the book was actually really kind of good. Like the reveal of everything, I was like, okay, I'm behind this. Like that's kind of interesting how it all like loops together. But overall, I was just kind of not impressed. I was just really trying to get to the end to see what happened, and I was surprised by the ending. and I did like it. Everything else in between I wasn't a huge fan of. And the last two books we're going to talk about are basically like a duology, can be both read as standalones. They're companion novels. Family Upstairs and The Family Remains. The Family Upstairs is the first book, and then The Family Remains is the second one. This one picks up right where we left off in the first one, and it follows the same set of characters, and you're just finding out a whole bunch of new information in this second one. But this first one, very, very good. I highly recommend this one. I absolutely loved this one. I think I gave this one a 4.5 stars. Absolutely loved it. The plot twists were really, really good. It was like almost like, I don't want to say sadistic because it wasn't that, but it was very like on the edge of my seat and very like disturbing in a way, like what was going on in this house that is like eventually all later revealed. We also have a very unreliable narrator, which I actually really, really loved. And you do get, I think, 3 points of views. Okay, let me read you the back of the book. Soon after her birthday, Libby Jones returns home from work to find the letter that she's been waiting for 25 years. She rips it open with one driving thought: I'm finally going to know who I am. She learns not only the identity of her birth parents, but also that she is the sole inheritor of their abandoned mansion on the banks of the Thames. Everything in Libby's life is about to change, but what she can't possibly know is that others have been waiting for this day as well. She is on the collision course to meet them. In The Family Upstairs, the master of bone-chilling suspense brings us the can't look away story of 3 entangled families living in a house with the darkest of secrets. It is very, very good. It's almost like, I don't want to say wild, but very good. I just don't have anything else to describe it. It's very, very, very good. So I highly recommend putting this on your TBR for 2024 if you've never read this book before. And finally, the last book I'm going to talk about is The Family Remains. Did give this one a 4 stars, but I think thinking back on it, I'm probably going to bump it down to a 3 stars. Not that this book wasn't good. You just have too much information from the first one for there to be any real surprises or plot twists in this book. So like that's really all I have to say about it. Like it was good and I enjoyed my time reading it, but like I said, like I just had too much information from the first book to really be surprised in the story to any of the reveals in the book. Yeah, and I don't want to say anything because it does give away like what happens in the first one to come to this one. Like I said, I can't really say anything because it's just gonna give, like it just gives away because you get too much information from the first one to really be surprised in the second one. It does help to have the backstory of this one for the first one, but if you read this one on your own, I could definitely see being surprised at the book and like figuring out what happens. But I also feel like you need the information from the first one to really understand what's going on. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. All right, well, with that being said, that is every single thriller that I read this year. I had a really good like variety of thrillers this year, and I honestly thought I had read a lot more, but I don't know. I'm a romance girly, a fantasy girly now, so I haven't been reading as many thrillers. But either way, I have a great time reading thrillers, so even if they were not the best thrillers that I read, I am always entertained when I'm reading them. But anyways, like I said, that is it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on all of my social medias as well as subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.